This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper, Goren, Holm, or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever. Cheers.
Boom, you've been warned.
Cheers. That was a long disclaimer to start with. That's the first.
Yes. And you can hear these on Blockchain Radio afterwards. Blockchain Radio, one of our media partners, shares these and replays them for their community. And on our YouTube channel, we've been putting them all up on the Draper Goren Holm YouTube channel. That was fun, Adam?
That was beautiful.
All right.
Cool, guys. Should we get started?
Let's do it.
A couple more minutes.
I say let's go into intros.
Let's do it. Jude, you want to start off? Introduce yourself, your company, how you got involved in the space, and we can kind of go down the circle next. Mohsin, Natalie, Phil, Wesley, and we'll give ours.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, everybody. My name is Jude, also Yoda. You can choose one. I'm the founder and the CEO of Jointer. I am originally from Israel. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I built 5 startups, sold 3 of them. The way that I end up in the real estate industry is because this is my, I think, my only hobby, kind of. So I'm investing my own money. And when I came to the United States in 2012, I decided that I will invest my own money. But then there were so many barriers, so many time involved in order to be a person that cherry picking the right deal. So that's why I decided to invest money in order to develop solution for my own use. And for my own use, it become to be everybody else because people knock on my door and say, hey, you're solving problem for yourself, but this is also our own problem. Can you help us? And that's how it's been created as its own startup from try to solve my own problems. About Jointer is decentralized financial for commercial real estate, and we basically find a way how to change the game in the commercial real estate industry. And probably during that conversation, Alon will explain more about it. But we are launching everything, not everything, but something small in Asia as a start in September 1st. So we are very exciting about it because we worked on that like 2.5 years. So it's really, really, really big project.
Cool. Thanks for joining us. Mohsin, go for it.
Hey, everyone. My name is Mohsin Masud. I'm the founder for Tokenism. My background in real estate, I used to run a small private equity fund. We did real estate investments globally, anywhere from Singapore, UAE, Pakistan, India, Europe, and across North America as well. 2018, I founded Tokenism. It's a platform for democratizing real estate investments. We're fractionalizing real estate assets and presenting them as digital securities, and we aim to be a fully regulated platform, a fully compliant platform with all regulator approvals on there.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Natalie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm the founder of Propy. I moved to Silicon Valley 4 years ago after being a real estate developer for many, many years, constructing properties and then selling them primarily to foreign investors. And I strongly believe in the blockchain opportunity to revolutionize the way we trade assets, especially high-value assets. This is why I'm so passionate about applying the knowledge and opportunity of blockchain to real estate to potentially influence the way we transact high-value assets.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us. And Phil?
Yeah, so Phil Kelly, I'm from ConsenSys. I lead business development and sales for the Americas. My background is, so I've got a kind of varied background, which I never thought would be a coherent career path until blockchain came along. So I started out as a central banker, working on payment and security settlement systems and money markets and regulation. Moved on into strategy. So I was doing strategy consulting for some of the big banks in New York and payment companies. Did a tour of duty at IBM, where where I first learned tech and then came to ConsenSys about 2 years ago. For those of you who have known ConsenSys in the past, I think, like all startups, we've changed a ton over the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Actually, funny enough, that 3 years ago was when we had a business that was, very squarely in the real estate space. We did some of the early real estate token-related work. Since then, we have, based on our understanding of really what the market needs and where it is in its level of maturity, we're now more focused on product sales. And so we're trying to develop, we're offering to the market hardened enterprise-ready components from prior projects and internal development work that we've done that we think will be the building blocks for businesses, blockchain-based businesses, to quickly assemble solutions and get those out to customers. We are focused very much on financial services now. That's widely drawn, so it certainly includes, for example, real estate work in the tokenization. We've also done work with some banks on trading companies on trade finance type activities. Organization, of course, is a big part of our suite. And we're currently engaged, and all these points come together eventually. We're currently engaged in a lot of conversations and some live work on central bank digital currency, which I think kind of comes into play in the settlement aspect of payments or of real estate. One last thing to get us out of the way with, hopefully people saw this morning our announcement. We had a quant from JP Morgan, the Goren project. So we're the happy things of that now. It's excellent synergy. The work that we've been doing, as I said, we're now on enterprise-ready hardened components, and Goren is a fantastic addition to that suite. And at the same time, we've taken a strategic investment from JP Morgan. Sorry for the long question.
No, that was great. And Wesley?
Yeah, hi. My name is Wes Williams. I'm an attorney licensed in California. I work with I'm an attorney with the firm of Relaw APC. I'm here on behalf of Ubiquity today to discuss, what they've been working on and just various developments in the blockchain and real estate side. My background is in title insurance and settlement. I've been in the space for 27 years. I've essentially, looked at every aspect of the title and insurance and settlement industry. And then when I learned about blockchain somebody introduced it to me in 2014, but I really didn't think much of it until around 2017. At the height of the ICO and craze, and Bitcoin was going, obviously mooning. So I got interested in the technology. And when I learned about, after I learned about Bitcoin and then learned about Ethereum and smart contract technology, I immediately understood it to be something revolutionary, particularly in the title and settlement industry. I thought there are numerous applications for this, and I know at the outset, during the early days of blockchain, people in the crypto and blockchain industry, were talking about disintermediating the title companies. I saw it in a different way and more of a complementary aspect, thinking that the title industry and settlement industry can utilize the technology and do it in a compliant way in order to streamline the settlement process and ultimately bring in all the counterparties to the transaction and make that instantaneous real estate escrow transaction a reality. Obviously, there's regulatory challenges that you got to contend with, but nevertheless, Ubiquity has been, looking at partnering with title companies and bringing them into the fold, so to speak, and educating them on, how this technology can transform their business models and create something unique that we haven't seen before, hopefully, right? I mean, it's ultimately where it goes down. But in any event, that's my my background.
Thanks, Wesley. Alon, Josef, you guys want to give the spiel about Draper, Goren, Holm?
Sure. For you guys who don't know us, my name is Josef Holm, co-founder of Draper, Goren, Holm. We invest in blockchain startups. We're super early stage. We want to hear from you guys. Email us or find us on LinkedIn so we can fund your company.
Cool.
Oh, Alon, let's talk about the Bitcoin giveaway too.
Oh yeah, we do these events, as you know, but we also do LA Blockchain Summit every single year in Los Angeles. formerly known as CIS. But we just decided to triple down on Los Angeles and LA Blockchain Week. And this year, we're giving every single person who attends, who goes through a certain process, who's willing to go through that process, $100 in Bitcoin to come to the event. And because it's virtual, now you not only, you don't have to travel, stay home, you can watch a conference, and you'll get $100 in Bitcoin when you do it. So if you'd like to come join us at the summit, go to lablockchainsummit.com/free. And we'll have, hopefully all of these speakers will join us at that summit as well, along with about another 150 of our closest friends.
Love it.
Sounds cool. I didn't know you're also giving out money for that.
Yeah, well, look, the story behind it is we've been trying to do it for like well over 2 years. We kept trying to find different partners. Like all of these blockchain groups will do like affiliate programs and things like that, where it's like, oh, sign up for a wallet, we'll give you $20. So our idea always was, let's get whatever we can out of a big partner and give all the profits back to the people so that we can teach people who don't already have Bitcoin how to do it. And we get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people to the conference, depending on the year. How great would it be? There's never been a time where you could say, here's 3,000 people in a convention center where every single person has Bitcoin. So that's the idea. Awesome. Every single person will be a holder of crypto that's watching this all at the same time. And the goal is to get to 10,000 people so that we can give away $1 million in Bitcoin. And so that we can really say we've given away $1 million. If we get there or not, we're already in the thousands of people, so it'll be the biggest Bitcoin giveaway in the history of ever.
That's beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah, that's the best way to get people into crypto, actually, to give them a little bit of cryptocurrency. In your case, it's actually quite an extensive amount. And we've launched a crypto certification program specific for real estate so that realtors can learn more about blockchain and how it relates to real estate. And the first task we give the audience is actually, you have to have a couple of coins, any coins, and that's your first journey to establish a wallet and to see how it goes, transfer coins to other people. So I think that's a great approach.
Yeah, you know what? This week, maybe I'll share it with the community. People in the community, let me know, and then let's go into this. Will be a good first question for the audience. But I actually last week did a family thing where I sent all my nieces and nephews, my brothers and sister-in-laws, a video of me challenging them. And I said, you're going to get a prize. All you have to do is send me your Ethereum wallet address. And I gave them like 3 ways in which they could create an Ethereum wallet. Then my niece was the first person who sent it to me, and I sent her $25 in Ethereum to the wallet. And I said, stay tuned for the next step. And I'm every week going to send them another, step, and they're going to get a prize when they do it. So the next step will be to buy an NFT so that they can hold art in the crypto wallet, and then like a next thing and a next thing and a next thing.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely will inherit that if you may allow, and do some campaign for realtors.
I think it'll be fun. I got to get my parents to get it. If my parents jump in because of the grandkids, then we won. But so that's, I think, a good first question is talking to people in real estate is very a mainstream world. I think it's actually one of the best stepping stones for people to learn and understand this space, especially the value. What do you guys do to sort of help get people over that hump, the education hump, the blockchain, and all that? I mean, maybe Natalie, you started to answer that. Maybe Mohsin, I think you're very consumer focused.
Yeah, sure. We actually started with really consumer focus as well in the beginning, helping to understand the blockchain application in real estate to agents and buyers and sellers. Now we're all about enterprise, but again, we have the same task, how to explain blockchain in a way that it doesn't drive them away. As first of all, we tend to explain it very, very in a simple way. That is immutable record system. And we also tell them about the 3 applications in real estate. For me, there's a 3, and maybe others will add or expand, but there's a 3 major applications. First of all, the tokenization and fractional ownership, and we have 2 people here to explain more about that. In Propy, we're not doing that, even though in the first year of operation, we had probably over $1 billion of requests to tokenize properties, but we decided to focus on the second application, which is tokenizing the process of closing itself, how smart contract can replace the settlement and the escrow, which also Wes can elaborate. They're focusing on that as well. And then the third application, I think it's most impactful globally, especially for developing countries, is keeping records of title and ownership on the blockchain. And then this would be the application for governments, for counties. And in fact, at Propy, we did the first ever transactions with governments in Vermont and in Ukraine, where those records on blockchain of ownership was for the government themselves. So for me, these are the 3 major products. And when we want to explain blockchain, we actually have to talk with examples first, how those records are immutable, how now in a corrupted country, let's say Ukraine or Bulgaria, the government people won't be able to actually get access to the registry and change the ownership. I think this kind of an example that we're providing. And of course, if they want to go deep and understand like a permissionless blockchain or something else, then we go deeper into explanations. But we normally just start with examples.
Yeah, so for us, we truly believe blockchain is a general purpose utility. You know, whether it's whether you talk about the internet. So when you talk about Amazon, you don't say, "Hey, Amazon's using the internet to sell different services." You know, you're on Amazon buying things. So the biggest thing for us is blockchain being utilized as the general purpose utility that it's meant to be. And exactly what Natalia said. There's multiple applications for it. It just needs to be presented in a way to people where it's most easily understandable to people. The biggest challenge that we see with people is onboarding them on the blockchain. It's always like, you got to get MetaMask, or you got to get X wallet or Y wallet or Z point of access. So, you know, we'll talk more about it throughout, but we've come up with a solution, partner up with a provider where it's as simple as logging into any other platform by using your email and your password. And you're not truly, for anyone who doesn't know much about blockchain, you don't really see much about blockchain. So having it more on the back end, that's truly where the use of it is I think, how we would get the maximum adoption out of it.
So we have a different approach with Jointer. I personally do not believe that I need to educate people in the world. I'm actually against that. I think it's my job to build something that will fit what they're already familiar with. And I will give you an example. When you're thinking about real estate, let's say owner want to go to some marketplace, let's call it like that. An investor want to come to the marketplace. If I will ask you, what do you think investor looking for? Or what do you think the property owner looking for? You're probably going to say to me, the owner looking for investor and investor looking for the owners. If I will replace property with startup and I will say there is a marketplace between startup and investor, you answer me the same. It's that simple. Startup looking for investor, investor looking for startup. And the answer is wrong. Investors are not looking for startup. They're not looking for real estate. They're looking for low risk, high return. And startup, they're not looking for investors. They're looking for money. So that's what they're really looking for. And why it's important when it's come to real estate. Whoever involved in real estate probably know, except if you're buying your own property. But if you're buying commercial real estate, this entire industry is an old-fashioned dinosaur, hush-hush, secret, who know whom, under the table, hiding deals. And the people that usually own those properties, the baby boomer that still signature with a pen and using facts that I need to go to the museum in order to find one. This is who you deal with. So if you say the word blockchain, you can spend lifetime to explain. It doesn't mean that even if they will understand that, they will jump on board. They need something simple. Money, I'm talking about fiat money, not fiat-backed stablecoin, in the bank so they can touch it. That's what they understand. On the other side,
but I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench into this. By the way, I didn't mention Jointer is a DGH portfolio company and the only portfolio company on the mix today, which is why I'll give Jude the most shit of anyone. But you say that, but when you go to jointer.io, you need to connect your MetaMask to interact.
So brilliant. So let's talk about it. What we realize is that we need to separate between the blockchain, crypto community, investor, first adopter, blah, 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 to people that just need money to build something or to operate a hotel or whatever, right? And think about it. If you need a mortgage, you don't go to your neighbor and develop people and say, give me $100, I will give you a share from my note. No, those people give money to some bank. They get whatever they get from the bank, usually it's nothing, right, or close to nothing. And then the bank come to you, you know what he's doing the due diligence, and he cut you one check, and he's in control that if you're doing some kind of monkey business, he knows what to do with you. And the middleman exists in the mortgage industry, but when you're thinking about it when somebody buying a property and they need to syndicate the down payment, because how it works, if you have $10 million property and you get from the bank 50, 60, 70, 80% loan, you're required to come to the table with the rest of the money, which usually you syndicate, right? So in the syndication world, which is usually for commercial real estate, there is no middle place. Did you ever heard about a company in the world that said you go to the bank, take 70% loan, then come to me, I will give you the other 30% down payment in it? No, there is no such kind. Actually, there is. It's Jointer, but you understand my point? It's not really exist, but it really exists because people syndicate money check by check from lawyer and family and friend, and it's exactly the same idea. The only difference is that banks know what he's doing, and family, friend, and small people do not. And that's where, and I will talk about it probably on the next question that you will write, why it's so important, or why it's so scary that without that structure that I explained, how all those people are going to suffer. So for the first thing that we're talking about, should I educate the people? No. If someone is a blockchain player, I will talk with his language. If someone is a real estate that's just looking for the money, I will come with fiat check, right? And give him one check and become to be his partner. Very simple. There is a split between those two groups. And again, I don't think I'm inventing the wheel here. I think there is a research in the universities that says that when you try to educate people, it's not really work best.
Phil, do you also see that on the enterprise level when it comes to tokenization and when it comes to giving an example? Do you see a lot of new clients that you try to onboard? Do they encounter some of the pain points that Jude kind of brought up and that Natalie brought up?
Well, I was going to say, we've done that registry type work, but right now we haven't. And I agree with some of the points that I made earlier, and actually have partly to poke people a little bit, but also sincerely meant. I remember when I first joined ConsenSys, I used to challenge people to themselves and not say the word blockchain. Because as other people have said, at the end of the day, people are not going to buy blockchain, they're going to buy benefits. So unless you can explain the benefits, then you're not really able to articulate the case for using blockchain. So I agree with all of that. I also agree exactly as people said that most of the users or the end users that we will be targeting currently, some will absolutely want to hold digital assets in their own wallet, have a full kind of crypto type experience, but the vast majority will probably want the kind of Web 2.0 portal experience that they're used to from a lot of the services they use today. And that's definitely, I'd say that I personally have a two-pronged approach to this, to talking through. One is to show them that, look, you can have a 2.0 experience. You show them interfaces and portals and show them how they actually transact with tokens under the cover, but with a seamless experience. The other side of it is the question of why you should use blockchain underneath that, and you can talk about that from conceptual perspective. But I think a very useful thing to point out to customers at the moment is the rate of adoption. And over the last 6 months, I mean, although we've been through some very difficult times and some turbulent times in relation to some of the blockchain crypto world, one thing that's been remarkable to me is the amount of institutional momentum around tokenization. And to give you some examples, the GCCC announced their Project Whitney. So really big, classic institutional names. GCCC announced their Project Whitney on Ethereum back in Q1. NASDAQ private markets launched a digital asset service. We've had, I mean, it's not digital assets, but OCC, the Option Clearing Corp, announced their work on using blockchain for securities lending. There are 50 central banks around the world that are working in earnest on digital currency, both wholesale and retail. That won't all be token-based or all blockchain-based, but some sure will be, and that's where some interesting work is taking place. So that's the other aspect of this. Show people that there's an easy, practical, usable way of interacting with these systems, but also show them where some of the smart money is going and the incredible amount of momentum that is going into the underpinnings of those systems in a moment.
I hear you. And Wesley, when it comes to, I guess, the record-keeping side of things, right? And you guys also deal on the enterprise level type of blockchains. Could you echo the same thing? In terms of the challenge? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so basically, so when speaking with a potential client, so most of UBITQUITY's clients are title insurance entities in some form, be it an agency or an underwriter or even an escrow company. It could be one and the same based on the license type. But in any event, title companies are looking at this because there's been so much hype around blockchain in general, and they don't necessarily know they don't necessarily know how to segregate the token aspect from the actual blockchain to some extent. So they're thinking it's all in one. So a lot of times they don't really know. So you kind of have to educate them. This is how it works. So, and then they've also heard about some real estate taking place using cryptocurrency, but the actual nuances of it are that in those types of situations, you're converting the crypto to fiat and then settling the transaction out in a traditional way anyway. But ultimately, the goal is, I think, what they're missing at a lot of these title companies, when you kind of explain to them how it all works, the real magic in the transaction will be eventually when you have autonomous escrows using some sort of stable coin that they can utilize in a transaction, and then ultimately take advantage of smart contract technology and the record keeping on the blockchain to make sure that those transactions are secure. The difficulty is going to be making sure that the data that gets inputted into the system is accurate information, which is why I think title insurance companies serve a good purpose in the industry to financially, back essentially their policies, basically the state of title as they've insured it, and doing that could be essentially the backbone of the trust aspect of title insurance, having title companies essentially backing these tokens that represent good title. And there's a lot there, but I mean, you kind of have to kind of explain to them the bigger picture with blockchain is kind of endless. But then again, the industry is very slow to move. I mean, historically, it takes them forever to kind of advance to a technology like this. A lot of the data has been sourced by
interesting. And Natalie,
insurance companies.
I remember there was an article that came out about Propy in 2018 where Richard Hilton actually sold his mansion, right, for Bitcoin, $38 million, right? When people start, I guess, buying property, selling property, aren't they concerned that Bitcoin's price is so volatile that the minute they purchase property, right, that they're going to lose their value because of just the price fluctuations? And how do you guys combat that exactly?
So I'll tell you what our strategy for combating volatility in crypto is. We've created our own stablecoins. We've got a two-layered tokenization process. You're trading using your stablecoin that is very native to our platform. It's one-on-one, backed by the U.S. dollar, with money sitting in a trust account, which is audited every month with audit reports going on, and the platform's picking up the tab on the audit and maintenance fees for that stablecoin. But we want to ensure that there's no effect of the volatility, and similarly, any gas fees, if they're on Ethereum, our platform is picking up the tab on that, and that's part of our the transaction fees that we charge. We absorb the cost within that.
Okay. Natalie, you were going to say?
Yeah, I'm back. So just a little to give a little bit background. In 2017, we did a token sale, and obviously we had tremendous interest from all over the world, from real estate professionals excited about the blockchain. And this is where our story started, with first ever transactions, first ever approved by government, first ever global transaction on smart contract, first ever escrow automated with smart contracts, then first ever in the United States and Japan and so on. This is where our story began, and some of those transactions were covered by media, like the one in Italy, and one specific one that I want to elaborate in Ukraine, where we really had a pure crypto transaction. So right now we're not focusing in crypto payment. We accept crypto payment, but 99% of our deals are in dollars. What we're focusing on is actually the escrow and the settlement protocol. This is what we're building and really focused on. But the first historical transaction was done in Ukraine, and it was done in Ether. The buyer of a property in Ukraine, Kyiv, was Michael Arrington, our advisor. And then the seller of the property, he was a blockchain enthusiast who actually wanted to have Ether. And so we the buyers sent the Ether amount to the smart contract, and the smart contract was programmed so that we get all the documents necessary and approval from a notary and the government that we can do the ownership transfer simultaneously with the release of the funds to the seller of the property. And in that case, the seller really believed and believes in Ether, so he just wanted to keep Ether. But at some occasions, like the one in Italy, they really want to accept Bitcoin just to have better PR on the property, so they want to exit right away. And normally they go through the process with us, which takes from 1 week to 4 weeks of closing. And when the time of closing of payment comes, we actually double check with them and with the payment platform that we have, whether they agree to the current exchange rate, so they don't risk. They may risk maybe an hour or two, but not more than that. They don't risk throughout the entire transaction. And we put the value of the property in the national currency in the agreement itself and in addendum.
So, I mean, I guess that kind of we can tie that into one of the questions being asked in the QA. So I know you mentioned it was bought in Ether, the one in Ukraine, right? But have you guys been seeing, and I'm throwing this out in general, people leveraging stable coins to purchase real estate, right? And if so, which stable coins have you seen being used the most?
Well,
if that's a question for me, no. Just
no? Okay.
Simple answer, no.
Okay.
Can I tell you stablecoin?
I haven't seen it. But I think, and I apologize, I think title and escrow companies right now are kind of weary of the regulatory uncertainty to some extent. But I think, the fact that now the Office of the Comptroller of Currency has kind of come out and stated that national banks can now custody crypto, I'm thinking that ultimately that may be the kind of opening of the door, so to speak, to legitimizing crypto in some way, that maybe in some point title and escrow companies will feel comfortable transacting in stablecoins, because their current infrastructure isn't set for that. They're set for utilizing the traditional systems, wire transfers, things like that, ACHs, even though they're leery of California has what's called good funds law, which title companies, their escrow departments that fall under the DOI regulatory scheme have to comply with. It's a little bit different when it comes to deep California DBO escrow companies, which you've seen a lot of them partner with BitPay to help facilitate the transactions of people that want to use Bitcoin for whatever reason to purchase real estate. They'll convert it to fiat, settle it out the traditional way. So there really isn't any, at this point, nothing that I know of, that transaction has taken place with a stablecoin, which I would love to see.
Frankly, I don't see the reason. Like, why would we do that? There are so many people holding stablecoin or cryptocurrency that they have so much of this currency that they want to differentiate, diverse, and buy properties. There's just no need. And in fact, we have integrations with payment platforms where we are able to do escrow function with smart contracts. We get the data from banks immediately, and we can initiate the wire transfers. So we basically don't need necessarily the transfer in cryptocurrency in order to make the settlement possible.
And Phil, I know you wanted something. Go ahead.
I was going to say earlier, so although there's some really fantastic and interesting constructs that we can adopt in the future, and by the way, I don't think stablecoins are particularly futuristic. But having said that, we've all said on this call that the real estate sector is, bizarrely slow to modernize in some areas. Actually, I was looking, only this morning I was talking to somebody about the fact that if you look across all different asset classes and look at the innovation that we've seen, I haven't got any empirical data to back this up, but I'm pretty sure that, for real estate securities, have been the least innovative for, we probably reached the only very significant innovation that has happened in recent decades. So it's a very, on the one hand, they seem to be quite keen on tokenization, but on the other hand, I suspect that they would be quite keen to stick with fiat for a while. And it's perfectly easy to arrange, fiat and DBP for tokens. You need an escrow agent involved, and it doesn't get you to Nirvana in terms of having everything on chain and smart contract administered DBP, but it's an acceptable start for a lot of clients.
And Jude, is there any purpose from the syndication model to even leverage to some degree, or better sticking to fiat?
So I'm sorry that I'm breaking the spirit for everybody. The entire concept of this tokenization, if I could put it in a box and describe it, I will say it's time sharing number 2, right? It's an absolutely big no-no. And I'm telling that because I was the first in the industry to create tokenization before Polymet securitized everybody else. And because our advisor is the previous chairman of the SEC, vice chairman of the NASDAQ, and many other, we took it the moment that we understand where it's going to go, and we trashed that. And what I mean by that, I want to point a few stuff so it will make sense to you what I'm talking about, because everybody sometimes exciting about something until they see the wall already hit them. So I just want to give you a heads up what's going to happen, right? Let me give you a few problems, and you will be the judge if tokenization goes somewhere or not, okay? Let's first understand, tokenization is when you tokenize right. You cannot tokenize the property, you can tokenize the income stream, okay? Now, when you do that, and again, I'm talking about commercial real estate aspect, okay? Because personal property is a different world, okay? With commercial real estate, in order to underwrite a property, you need to be sophisticated with few years of experience or to pay to someone a lot of money in order to do that. Now, let's say when you buy into a property, let's say the owner, the issuer, prepared for you some kind of a due diligence, very nice from a company that you can trust. And let's say you trust that due diligence, so you don't need to spend time on it, okay? What is the problem? The problem is that when you're going to take your token after 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, whatever, and sell it to Joe Schmo, John Schmo doesn't have that report anymore because the property change value every month. Every month, the NOI and the cap rate in the market changing every month, therefore the property changing every month. And you will not go to underwrite $20,000 property, spending $20,000 property cost of the diligence in order to underwrite a deal that you invest $100 or $100,000. It's not cost effective. Now, this is problem number 1. Problem number 2, what if the owner is a scammer? And I don't need to remind you in 2017 how many people abused the ICO, right? What if the owner will go to Securitize and will go to Polymet and will go to Harbor and will create coin for each one of them that represent the same income stream? If you will sell it, nobody will know that it represents. It's like to sell the Brooklyn Bridge again and again and again 100 years ago, right? And what if the owner that have, let's say, a property $10 million and the bank lend to the owner 60% or 70%, and the owner hold 30 or 40% equity? What if the owner wants some equity out, right? And let's say we went to some website like CoStar and other, and they tried to sell it, and nobody touched it with a stick. But what? Here we go. Tokenization come along, so you can sell it piece by piece, right? And what if we will sell all of that? What if we will sell the entire 40% or the entire 30%? Nobody can stop him from doing it. Imagine yourself that you're buying a stock from a company and the CEO left the company and there is nobody else to run the show on your behalf. Commercial real estate cannot run without principal, without manager, right? What if we will sell the property and we'll tell you it's worth 10 million when it's worth only 5? What if we will, after we will sell it to you?
Yeah, but you're talking about a bunch of problems.
What if we will go to the bank and we'll take a loan, and now the property have a loan instead of 70%, 80 or 90% loan, it's coming from your pocket. What if we were getting the rent to the Wells Fargo as a fiat money, he will not convert it to fiat-backed stablecoin, and he will spend it and give it to his girlfriend. You cannot do anything about it.
No, Jude, that's not true, though.
Yeah, I totally disagree here.
Yeah, that's not true. That's not how it works.
You're basically, explaining a bunch of reasons why the blockchain is probably better than other ways, because in other ways it'd be easier to scam people in the ways you're talking about.
I will over the blockchain.
Wait. You're right when you're talking about unregulated, crazy tokens on whatever.
No. I'm talking about. Listen. Okay.
The Brooklyn Bridge example was in the Onera white paper like 3 years ago when we first launched Onera as an example as to why you need a network that's probably not Ethereum in the way it was looked at the time.
No, I told you that.
A network that was made for the ownership of securities.
So I will mention two more stuff.
Right?
I will mention two more stuff. Listen. But you're giving people ideas for new blockchain companies right now. No. I didn't say stuff are not doable or you cannot solve them in some point. I just said right here, right now, it's like a time sharing. Easy to get in, not easy to get out, right? And I want to place two more issues that are most important here than everything else that I said, right? And that's the liquidity and the regulation. When you're selling a piece of a property, you exist in the United States and most of the regulated countries, a security, which means it's subject to number of shareholders. In the United States, no more than 100. In different countries, maybe 50 or 35. What that mean? That means that nobody can come to the table with $1. You need to come with a big check because there is only limit of 100 shareholders.
It depends on what regulation you're following.
I'm talking about regulation D506C or B, not on A. And that being said, if someone will want to sell his token to somebody else, guess what? He cannot sell half of that. He cannot sell, to two people. You have to sell all of that to one person. Otherwise, the property will cost the 100 shareholders and the issuer will get a subpoena, right? And will become to be a public company. Now, not only that, let's talk about liquidity, which is the most important part in the real estate, because who's going to buy into a Bitcoin if you cannot sell it, right? That's the purpose. Today, more than ever, and all of the people here on the table, I can see them, they know what I'm talking about. In few years ago, people say, take my money, close it to 10 years, but give me 10,000x like Facebook. Nobody said that today. Everybody say, take my money, double that. I don't want 10,000x, but give you the money tomorrow or day after, not 10 years from now. Everybody want exit strategy yesterday. And the same thing going on today with everything, including the real estate. Nobody like to buy into something without knowing how we get out of that. And if I will buy a token that represents equity or income stream in a property, I need to ask myself, who am I going to sell it to? Now, let's see if it is possible. If the property will go to alternative trading system, OTC, Zero, Schmizo, any company in the world that squeeze out of, I don't know how, $250 million from people for nothing, and they will say, buy my token, I'm going to place it over there. Guess what? Those exchanges make money from spread and fees. And if you have a property, $10 million, and whoever understands real estate knows that $10 million is a lot because most of the average property is even less. And you have a bank, 70% loan and 30%, let's say, equity. Even if you sold out your entire equity, the daily trading will not going to beat $3 million every day. It's not Bitcoin. It's a property. People buying into that coin, and it will be appreciated either by few years or at least by few months. So the daily trading is very little.
So, Jude, I'm gonna. So let's let other people talk too. I really wish we would have got some more passionate people today on the chat, really, because this is a major snooze fest. But but okay, I get what you're saying, and there's a bunch of things, but there are ways to slice and dice it a million different ways. We could I'm sure Wesley has some ideas. His connection is a little slow, but there's Josh Lawler on the in the chat who's done crowdfunding deals and things like that in the past. And real estate has been actually one of the widest and quickest to adopt in terms of crowdfunding adoption because it's easy to understand and it's tangible and it has been used and people have done it at stages larger. I know I'm interrupting Mohsin, so you go, Mohsin, but Jude, let other people talk. You're right in many ways, but let's go.
No, I was just going to say there's, every problem that you brought up, there's a very simple solution to it. And there are people who are resolving those issues. Reg Seed is not a limit for 100 people. I'm sure Wesley could talk more about it. Lauder is there as well. You can very easily slice and dice your rights into the asset or in the underlying or the holding company and therefore the underlying assets. And you can tokenize those assets. You're right. If it was individual tokenization of every asset, with someone going to Harbor, Securitize, Polymath, every company that you mentioned right now, there's no central body who's regulating it. Like that's why Onera is being built. That's what our purpose of building it is, as being the central tokenization body for real estate assets, so that there is a fiduciary involved for managing those assets. It's not, no one's able to sell more than what their ownership is or their stake, and there's no management in place. You've got to have those regulations in place. You've got to, and that's where the regulators kind of have stepped up and need to step up more. And they need to make our life simpler for introducing better regulations as opposed to relying on historic regulations. But even when we work within the current regulations, each and every one of those problems that you've mentioned is very easily solvable and is being solved, whether it's by Propy or it's by ConsenSys or it's us or
I'm sorry to say to you, you don't have a clue what you're talking about. Not in a main way. I mean, personally, I don't know you, but I'm just telling you, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I think maybe we need to clarify for the audience, those who have not been in real estate. I think it just makes sense to actually clarify that the fraction of an ownership, normally it's a fraction in a company that owns real estate. Yes. Nobody is working on really like fractionizing the equity in one property. This is not feasible today.
And there's certainly
there's ownership rights in a company that owns the real estate.
People, and I think Wesley have a background as attorney, so it's interesting to hear him. But for the people that listening, forget about token for a second and think about digital paper. There is no difference, right? Digital paper.
It's traditional shares in it.
So whatever
these are shares and these are securities.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this makes the case even easier. It makes it easier because we can follow the regulations.
Because that's what Jointer does. I'm just saying that we build tokenization first and we trash it.
Yeah. When you think about
with stairs, because I know Natalie when she went ICO and I've been ready to go ICO before her and I trashed it and my investor almost killed me, and I say I cannot build something that will put me in jail afterwards. So
yeah. But you know what though? I think the industry as a whole is kind of listen. I mean, all you really hear about are places like Wyoming, and then you've got Congress people and senators that are pushing legislation. You've got trade organizations now that are trying to figure out the regulatory scheme either on a national level and even at the state level, which you got to contend with as well. But my point is, like, all these things are going to get figured out. So as we're slowly going through this process, things are going to change, and you're going to be able to see. And here's what I envision. I would love it, because ultimately it will happen, that you're going to see DeFi interact with this space at some level. I don't know how it's going to work, and maybe it's that the tokenized, your tokenized title becomes a digital asset that you can actually leverage and maybe interact with DeFi in some way where they can actually, you'll be able to see a mortgage happen. But then I know that there's regulatory issues you got to contend with. But it's all kind of like, I think everybody's mindset now is going towards this process. I mean, we're kind of going to get away with from paper dollars. We're going to digital dollars. Clearly, there's news out there that MIT and I think some section of the Fed are going to get together to build this digital dollar. And so, I mean, it's all it's coming to a head. So real estate, it's going to impact the real estate industry as well.
It's definitely going to happen. It is doable. I get what you're saying, Jude, because when Ethereum was early days, and when we were doing things early days, it was harder to whitelist people, it was harder to control, it was harder to do different things. But you can. There is, there has been Reg CF crowdfunding in real estate in the United States.
It's limited to $1 million.
It exists and it can happen. We should shift gears.
Also, I mean, there's no...
Yeah, exactly. We need to say that there were cases of tokenization in real estate, of companies that own real estate. And I think these are amazing cases where we also need to incorporate the governance on blockchain, how these management companies owning real estate can be managed. Once, for example, somebody buys out more than 51% of this company, how they can influence and vote to do with the property, whether they want to sell, whether they want to change a management company. Here, where it comes, the stablecoin usage, because the dividends, of course, the best case is just to send out dividends in stablecoins globally. Other case of stablecoin usage we see with brokerages that are international. They, in fact, we have one customer who is willing to pay out commissions in stable coins. Just going back a little bit to your questions before that.
Phil, you wanted to add?
Fundamental issue with fractional ownership of real estate. I mean, look at the whole REIT market is based on fractional ownership of real estate. And so, you're right that there has to be the ability to find information to allow a smart investment decision to be made. But that is a problem that has been solved in REIT markets. There's certainly projects which will be non-viable because they'll be too small, there won't be enough information available. But I definitely think fractional ownership of real estate is completely proven.
But by the way, Alon, what I said is relevant to commercial real estate, private sector. It's not relevant to REIT. REIT have a different path, which then do not have the problem that I mentioned. Okay.
Phil, are there some good examples from the ConsenSys side or on the enterprise side of some of these things that you guys have worked on, or
so we don't have many there in the public domain, but one that we do is a real estate fund in France. You can sort of see it on our site. First of all, it was the early work that we did with Meridio a couple of years ago, but since then, the most recent one since then that we've gone public about is our project with Natalia Capital in France. So France recently did some liberalization of the keeping rules around real estate securities ownership, and we had a client that was happy to go public on the work there and issued a fund for a group of properties that is announced to investors. We have a lot of other work going on behind the scenes that is not in the public domain yet.
Cool.
But all these problems are real. I mean, for sure, there's a real issue about access to information, and there are a ton of legal and regulatory issues to solve. So no denying that.
I want to go ahead and jump into QA again, just because we're running low on time. This one comes from Jonathan, and he's asking, would it not be easier to put mortgages on a blockchain before deeds, since mortgages are private and deeds are controlled by government?
All right, so here's kind of the issue why people really don't understand the necessity to record your documents. But so legally, most states, in order to become a bona fide purchaser or encumbrancer of real estate, you have to give notice of your interest. And so when somebody does a title search, the onus is on them to confirm ownership rights and then any liens or encumbrances that affect the property. Title companies have taken on that role. So ultimately, to perfect your interest, you have to record it in the county in which the property is located. And each state has the recording statutes to determine priority, because technically you don't even have to record your interest. The only reason to do it is to kind of give yourself the protections of the states when it comes to property rights. And that's why you record that interest. So recording it on a blockchain and disregarding the county land records, yeah, that's kind of a big mistake, because if you do that and somebody researches the property, they're going to find who the last owner is, and then they can essentially, perpetrate some sort of scam. But like I said, it does nothing. So the blockchain is essentially a secondary database that you would record your interest, but there's really no legal effect. And that's
unless the industry really accepts it, unless the lenders accept it as a new form, and this is what we're working on. So we have two products. One is land registry for counties, and apparently, if they will just start using our decentralized land registry, then obviously this will be the evidence. But as Wes said, our core, the other project, where we record the entire transaction, including mortgage documents, including title documents, we record them on the blockchain, and then it serves as an additional evidence. And some of the states have those laws that say that the record on the blockchain is an evidence in court. And so if they have problems with some claims, whether it's lost data in in the county, or they have natural disaster and whatnot. Last year, Baltimore had an attack and they lost some data. So if they have some problems and they need to have more documents for those claims, then they can go back to these records on the blockchain. So now it's more like an additional backup information, as Wes said. But for example, in our case, we are integrating with mortgage software, with title software. We built our own environment, secure environment, where we invite all those participants and we help exchange data critical for the real estate transaction, potentially eliminating manual work, and so that the settlement can actually be able to gather this data and just do e-recording automatically. That's the ultimate goal.
Right. Yeah. And as an aside, just to kind of add to that, Jonathan Dunsmore mentioned that there was a system, or is a system in place called MERS, where you can record your beneficial interest, the lender would, because typically when there was these packaging of mortgage-backed securities and they were selling them off, MERS became that repository where you would include your interest after the fact. But MERS ultimately, there were issues with that too, because they weren't recording in the land records as well. MERS became that second repository, but it's a centralized repository. So blockchain, essentially something along that lines, as Natalia was mentioning, would definitely serve a need. That's for sure.
Great. I want to jump into another question. This one comes from Sean. How do all of you feel the DeFi space can make an impact to projects like Lend, providing crypto-backed mortgages as one of its use cases?
You cannot buy crypto-backed asset, because that means you need to pass accreditation check in most of the regulated countries. And I know that people say to you, give me your crypto, I will give you something, and my entire portfolio is backed by asset, and you get dividend. What do you think will happen with the SEC the moment that they will be a little bit more free from dealing with what left over from the ICO? Don't you think they're going to go after that next? People cannot do that.
It's a huge opportunity for developing countries, though, where we don't have SEC, we don't have land registry.
The thing is that there is no really country in the world, right? And I'm saying that because I didn't explore Africa yet, but there is no really country in the world that they say there is no rule for security. Every country has a rule for security. They may be different, but everybody have it. And I know that some security in the United States is based on the Howey test, which is different than security per se in Asia or in Europe. So something in Asia and Europe may not be a security, but in the United States will be a security. But that is only when we're talking about cryptocurrency like utility, that in the United States may be security and in Europe may not. But when you're talking about asset, dividend, company, that's security everywhere. No question about it.
Yep, that's
so whoever is land,
yep.
whoever is in land come up with that, they will need to face the law because they're breaking the law right now.
Okay.
There's no doubt that the real estate asset is a security. However, $9 trillion are now locked in debt capital, which is real estate in developing countries. People own properties, own land, and they cannot get any financing. And this is where I think it's a huge opportunity. Yes, maybe it sounds a little bit utopian, but those countries are open, especially if you provide a free technology,
I will
free
tell you
software.
a secret. Wesley said a few minutes ago that the future going to change. He said that with confidence the future will change. I say I hope so. But I can tell you a secret. A few years ago, there was companies like Lending Club, you probably heard about that, and others that are doing peer-to-peer. Now, there is no such kind of a thing peer-to-peer. It not really exist. It's absolutely big no-no because you need to be absolutely licensed. And the SEC come to them and shut them down. And they say, what do you want me to do with the billions of dollars of people put in my company? And those companies, Lending Club, force the SEC to be creative for them, and the SEC come up with no idea how, without breaking the law, they may do that. So what I'm saying is that maybe if someone is big enough and he can show that if you put me down, you're hurting the
what you're saying is
that will help to move Donald Trump and everybody else, especially in election time. But do you really want to take the risk to go to jail if you're wrong? I mean, you have a daughter. I mean, nobody wanted.
You sound like we all have to just go down the crypto.
These things for life.
I hate the government, right? I'm just saying when you build stuff, look on what is here, right now. Try to be creative to work with that. If it will be changed in the future, good for everybody. But don't break the law. Don't do stuff that they are against people, against the law, because people will suffer and you will suffer and everybody.
I think there is the spirit of the law and the letter of the law, and I don't know if any of us would do if we fully only went with the letter of the law.
I think there's ways to.
I think
there's ways to do that.
My company is 100% decentralized, so even if someone will shut me down, it cannot be shut down. We have one more feature to do with the web, open source, and people can build the web on their own computer. They don't even need me to have a web. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It sounds like you're just stopping people from competing with you.
Well, I have a question though.
You don't know even you know a little bit about what we're doing, but there is tons of stuff that we're doing. But direct answer to your direct question, you know how people don't compete with you? It's very simple. When you do stuff in the better way and put people above all, and sometimes do it not in order to make money, in order to make something that you're really passionate about. And I'm passionate about changing something, not about making a buck. That's why I have subsidiary companies, non-profit organization, that 90% of my development is free and licensed for everybody. So think about like Google. Google give a lot of tools for free and they put business out of business because they had a different business model. And I have a different model than just make a buck by selling a cryptocurrency, right? Which I don't believe. but
well, I just wonder how we can be valuable here and how we can motivate the folks here, especially if there are some folks internationally in different countries where they're close to governments, enterprises, and they can talk to them, how they can change real estate, land registries, and so on. So I do think that there is a huge opportunity in blockchain to either help land registries in those developing countries. And we work probably with 3-4 countries with nonprofits where they are very eager to implement decentralized land registry. We have some progress there. It's slow, but there is some. And so I hope that maybe some folks are here. And of course, you can share on the chat who is in real estate industry, who is abroad, whether we can help somehow to share at least the knowledge that we have.
We definitely need a change. We just need to make sure that we're doing it right. And one of our advisors, the previous vice chairman of the NASDAQ, which is the founder of the Job Hack, which everybody talking about, Regulation D, crowdfunding, Regulation A, he is the one that created that. But it didn't was overnight. And by the way, I can tell you a secret right now, he's working on try to make something for crypto. But again, it's not going to be ready for tomorrow morning. But even if it will be successful, somebody else will be successful. It's just from the United States. There are other countries that do not change easily. So it's taking time to change the law, but it doesn't mean that we cannot build tools that will find legal loopholes or legal ways that the law didn't thought about it. And we will not do harm, but we'll still be able to change the world. There is many ways how to change without breaking the law.
I don't know why you mentioned breaking the law. I don't think someone...
Most of the people break the law in 2017, including you, Natalie, when you offer to people for free.
But
no, absolutely not. We've hired the best lawyers
Everybody
in the
has
country.
judgment. I just say everybody, not everybody, most of the people break the law in the last 2 years. I not say everybody will face...
Including Bitcoin creator and Ethereum creator.
oh God, come on! Listen,
I think.
Ethereum in the first days was a security until it stopped to be a security, right? But every project.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't go to this rabbit hole and really focus on real estate.
Real estate is the core.
Oh, let's not go there.
well, see, and that was my question.
Reading
Adam,
Josh Lawler's chats, I muted Natalie and Jude for 1 second while we calmed down for 1 sec. But we did want to jump into. We did want to jump into. I think Adam in our chat we had one last question. We were going to jump into the chat rooms and meet with everyone. But I think just throwing out there. I re-muted or unmuted you guys, but so one quick thing I was going to actually I'm not going to even go there. Adam, you do your thing.
Yeah, so I mean,
Ethereum crowd sale.
I'm gonna kind of like tone it down a little. I'm gonna end with this final question because it's the highest voted question, okay? And people are really curious about it. How does a blockchain-enabled MLS system work? How does that work exactly when you're scouting for new deals, right? Deals that are not on the market yet. How do you actually leverage blockchain to make that whole entire system more efficient?
There is no MLS with commercial listed, so I will let Natalie to answer about regular properties.
there is. It's looped.
That's not an MLS. That's where the deal is going to die. That's the place.
Yeah. There is MLS system, and we have 700 MLSs in the United States. In other countries, there is no MLS. So in other countries, there is an opportunity, huge opportunity, blockchain to be utilized for creating a centralized MLS, which is shared because right now MLSs are owned by a group of people and they collect fees from agents. In other countries, that would be awesome, a case for decentralization. In the US, I don't think it's feasible. MLS, they work fine. There are no fraud cases on MLSs. It's expensive, but I don't see any case to disrupt those.
Okay. Perfect. I think that's all the time we have today. I want to go and kind of give us the rundown. But before I do, everyone, can you tell us where we can find you for everyone that will be re-listening to this and whatnot? Jude, can you go ahead and start with yourself? Where can we learn more about Jointer? Where can we find more from you? And we'll go from Mohsin, Natalie.
When you say find me, meaning like LinkedIn?
Online, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of the above.
All the above. All right, so I'm not in LA. I'm in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. You can find me online, except 2 hours, 3 hours a day that I'm asleep. The rest I'm online. LinkedIn, probably I will see my email. I will see. I think all my information is everywhere. Everybody can find me. I'm
perfect.
Search my name, Jude Regev or Yoda. You will find me everywhere. So that's
okay. Mohsin?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I've just posted my profile link on the chat, and you can find Tokenism also on LinkedIn or on our website at tknism.io.
Perfect. Thank you. Natalie?
Propy.com is our website to find information, and then Twitter, Natalie Propy, or my email is ceo@propy.com.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Phil?
So our main website is ConsenSys.net. You can find in the news periodically, at least, especially right now.
ConsenSys@gpmorgan.com.
I'm on LinkedIn, so I'll drop the link in here.
Perfect. Thank you, Phil and Wesley.
Hi, you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, all the social media, Twitter, Telegram. Find obviously on LinkedIn. I work with Relaw, apc.com, or you can also my client ubiquity.io. You can check them out as well.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I want to kind of give everyone the rundown who's new to blockchain and booze, what happens next. So right now we're going to break off into the networking session. I'm going to end presentation mode, and all of us are going to be distributed to these wonderful, colorful tables where we can interact, meet, chat, discuss today's discussion or whatever is on your mind with people from all over the world. So be sure to have your cameras on. Be sure to have your microphones on. Otherwise, you're going to be really, really confused. So cameras on, mics on. Let's do it. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us.